right, welcome back to our next session. This one is all about character value statements. So we're joined again by David Helps, the Project Management Office Chief of Staff for the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. So welcome again, David.
Thank
Love
you.
it that you're here. Like, this is just awesome that you're with us so much. I think we're going to have to put you on salary or something. So that'll be 5 cents an episode, right? So last week we focused on all the things that were considered to be diseases of leadership, things that when you're in a leadership role, a project manager role, what you need to look out for. So this one, we're going to kind of flip that around. So this one is going to be focused on ways that you can build your character. When you build your character, the case is made that people will naturally want to follow you, that you become a better leader. And so we have one of the best leaders that I've ever met. I'm going to throw that to you. I think
I just try.
Awesome.
I just try. That's all I do.
So we'll go ahead and dig right in, so
Okay.
we can try to keep it. I think we went over on the last one
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit.
that's okay.
It was a long one. So this one's going to be more of a positive approach. So
Yeah.
what can a project manager or leader do in order to constantly be working to build their character, to make sure that when tempted to do something that's a disease of leadership, that
Yeah.
it just automatically bounces off of them. All right, first one. Good character. This is from John C. Maxwell, by the way. John C. Maxwell, from the book Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. I don't want to forget to say
Yeah,
that,
that's
because
right,
he
that's
wrote
right.
the book. He did a good job, and we're talking about it. So this one, good character builds strong trust, and it takes two to trust. So this is another, I know I've heard people say, well, you should trust me. No, it takes two to trust.
Yeah.
And so it goes into there and says, if my people learn to trust me, I'll get their attention. But if I initiate trust in my people, I'll get their action, which I think is a very, very good point. And the other point he makes is trust grows quickly when people transfer trust to others.
Yes.
Now this could be used in a dark and light way, but
Yes.
essentially this is saying, if I stand up in front of other people and I say, you can trust me, it might hold some weight. Like if you're already there,
Yeah.
you know, if you're Tony Robbins, or you're somebody who have millions and millions of followers,
Yeah.
you can stand up and say, yeah, I've got some cred here.
Yeah.
But it always lends more credibility when somebody else comes out and says, you can trust that person.
Yes.
And not just to a general crowd, but to the people in their circle. And,
Yeah.
So how can you, as a project manager or leader, build that trust so that you're kind of following these two things, saying, how do you initiate trust in order to get their action? And how do you make sure that you're not the one who's always blowing your own whistle, that you get other people to speak on your behalf to their networks and build more trust that way, rather than relying on your own word. All right, so that's enough from me. What do you have?
No, it's good, because this really is about, when you say you're going to do something, do it. As my grandfather used to say, actions speak louder than words. When a lot of people can talk, can talk.
Some can talk well.
Some people can talk real well, and then you find out later that they've embezzled money, or they've broke some law, or they've done something really bad. And now, so everyone, there's a lot of people who can talk, but it's about the actions that go behind that. And if you go in and you are willing, because another thing that my grandfather mentioned to me a long time ago was, don't ask your followers, your people that are your project teams, keep it PM focused. Don't ask your project team members to do things that you're not willing to go and do yourself at that moment if they tell you no.
Okay. Now, what if they're the subject matter expert?
Yeah.
You're telling them, go code it.
Yeah.
You got to be willing, even as a PM.
You've got to be willing to go in there and sit down with them and learn.
Okay.
When you spend that type of time with them to understand, because that's a really good point, because I think a lot of project managers suffer with this, especially new project managers or project managers who have moved from this industry to this other industry, right? Because project management is supposed to be cross-platform, cross-industry, right? And I think that a lot of people struggle with, okay, I'm going into a new industry, or I'm brand new to the thing, so my job is to follow the 10 by 5 by 49, or the 4 values and 12 principles if you're doing agile and all that stuff. But if you don't take time to go in and learn about how that industry actually works, then when you're giving orders, a lot of times you're going to give unrealistic orders. Mm-hmm. And if you keep giving people unrealistic orders, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to believe in you. And like I said before, character is what you do when no one's looking. And if you spend that extra time learning from those SMEs, and then you come back the next day and you can have an intellectual conversation, that SME is going to be like, wow.
Yeah, this person cared enough.
They cared.
Yeah.
That's character.
All right, very good. I like that. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because you're right. A lot of project managers just want to sit back and coach from the sideline with a megaphone
and check the boxes.
Very good, very good. All right, so then there's the 4 dimensions of character. And the 4 dimensions that are put forth are authenticity.
Yep.
So this is life lived between the lines of success and failure. So you're not always successful, you're not always failing. You're spend most of your time in the middle. And you may have moments of success and moments of failure. And that's authentic.
Yes.
So not being afraid
Correct.
to mention your failures. But also not being afraid to mention your successes. Just don't go overboard with it.
Correct. Don't be boisterous, right? I actually, to this point right there, it goes to, as humans, we learn the most from our failures. We learn the most from our failures. So why would we not talk more about that? And if you talk more about that from that perspective, then you become more authentic to people.
Why do you think people are so attracted to that?
I feel
authenticity. Yeah. Why? What is it about that you would rather have a relationship with somebody who admits their failures than somebody who's just always perfect all the time?
I think it's because most of us who live on this planet know that everybody's going to fail at some point in time.
Most of us who live on this planet.
And we're gonna fail, and failure is part of life. And if you talk with somebody and they're just always talking about everything that they do and everything they do right, and it's always good and it's always perfect, it's like, no, it can't be.
Right.
It can't.
So be authentic, right?
Yeah.
Don't always talk about your failures. I've actually known a couple of people that all they do is talk about their failures.
Yeah.
And so I noticed it in myself after a while. If I hear somebody only talking about failures, I start to agree. You must be a failure.
Yeah. Well, that's why you do sprinkle in the successes. You talk about the things that you got wrong. You talk about what you learned from it. And then you follow that up with, and then I used what I learned.
Exactly.
And look at what I did the next time I did it.
All right. The next one he has up under this, so the second dimension of character is self-management.
Okay.
And so what he talks about in self-management. And this one, it took me a little bit by surprise. All right, so I'll read the statement here. It says, consider the person you can be before you envision what yourself does.
Yes.
Okay. So I had to think about that for a moment, because I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, ask my wife. I'll talk about all of our hopes and dreams and big house and traveling and all that, without any consideration to what I want myself to be reflected of.
Yes.
What do I want to be? Who do I want to be?
Yes.
Before I start saying what my hopes and dreams are.
So here's what I do, and I'm gonna answer this by what I just literally told my archers on my archery teams yesterday at practice. All good archers, Olympic level archers, have shot their shot in their head before they even pick up the arrow to knock it. So everything, picking up the steps of archery, which there are 11 steps to archery, everything they have run through their head, dreaming vision, and they have mentally shot a 10 before they even pick it up to knock it on the bow. But they still have to do the steps. They still have to pick up the arrow, knock it, go through the steps, do the steps, trying to follow what they were hoping for, and then release and follow through, and hopefully they hit that 10 like they saw it in their brain right before they
see how that would be self-management.
Yes,
right. So
because you still got to do the steps.
Yeah.
So you have to know all the steps. You have to know what it takes to get those steps done perfectly to hit a 10. But in their head, they go ahead and do everything perfectly in their head before they actually physically do it.
Now, you're a project manager.
Yeah.
How do you do this? And I'm thinking, actually for me, I'm thinking of a work breakdown structure in my head.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to try to talk a group of people through the task, I have to have a whole conversation myself.
Correct.
To plan how that's going to go.
And you have to go talk to those SMEs, and you have to understand what it takes to do all those steps in the WBS. Because that goes back to authenticity, right? What we just talked about. It goes back to that, and you've got to understand what those pieces are and how to accomplish them in the WBS. So you have that conversation, then you go sit down, and then you set forth that goal.
All right. Now the next one.
Yeah.
I think this is going to probably be in what we've done 4 or 5 sessions now. It's number 6, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And I think in every single session this comes up. So, you know, if you're ever like listening to a professor talk and they repeat themselves over and over and over, you better write this one down, right? So
yes.
This one is a repeated theme.
Yes.
A repeated theme is humility.
Yes.
Developed over time when you accept your weaknesses and give grace to others for their weaknesses.
Yes.
Now I think a lot of times project managers leave that second part off.
Yes.
Like they're willing to say, yeah, here are my weaknesses, and but giving grace to others for their weakness is left out.
This goes back to what, and I think you and I've had this conversation before offline, and I think because you and I talk similarly when we teach the PM classes that we teach. And this right here goes back to every time we get to resource management and we talk about meeting our people where they are, right? And being humble enough to understand that they have areas of weaknesses that we need to help with and that we can help with as a project manager, as a lead. We can help them with those aspects to make them better and to make us better.
Never forgetting, if you see somebody have a weakness, this doesn't mean I'm going to keep this in my back pocket in case they give me trouble later.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, because and actually I've seen that. I've seen that from project managers that do that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to use this against you later," and they do, and I'm like, you just shut off that relationship. That relationship is now one of separation. There's now a wall between you, and you're not going to get the same level of communication, which is how you need to find out about the weaknesses and give grace for them. And we need to understand how and what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And it's not just the end result, it's also the people and getting them better.
All right, very good. All right, and the last one for the 4 dimensions of character, which is, I think, easy for most project managers on the surface, is courage. So courage. So makes character possible as we do what's right in the face of fear, fatigue, or uncertainty.
Yes.
So I think when most people think of courage, they think, well, I'm willing to stand up to the boss. I'm willing to get in somebody's face and do something. But what are you going to do naturally when you're faced, when you're tired, when you need that quick win and there's no quick win in sight, and you got to decide between doing it right and just getting it done?
Yeah. This right here is speaking to that as a project manager, we need to have the courage to go in there and, like you said, take on leadership and be like, hey, this is unrealistic from the beginning, But at the same time, we also need to have the courage to go back to our teams and say, hey, look, we're gonna have to put in a little bit of extra effort here in order to try to accomplish what it is that we're needing to do. And as you and I are well versed, sometimes our dead ends are given to us. There's not a choice. It is legally mandated that this actually occur. And we need to have the courage from both sides to talk to both sides and handle any situations that come up and be able to take that on. And those types of projects are the ones that you're going to get the most fatigue on, and you're going to get the most drop in morale. But you have to be courageous, and you have to be able to get that courage, not just for you, but get your team to have that same, the Braveheart speech. Oh, no. And sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
You have to do it sometimes.
Very good. All right. This one, I think we've heard time and again, but this comes from Greek philosopher Plutarch. I think we need to have some of these names.
Yeah, I think.
We have names like Tony and David now, but we need to have names like Plutarch.
Yeah.
And if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. But what we achieve inwards will change outer reality. And this one philosophically sounds good, but let's see if we can relate it. One, related to project managers, but what can you do each day as a project manager to recognize that you can't change anything outward until it changes inside first? You have to believe it. You have to change it on your inside before it manifests itself outwardly.
In order for your project teams to work as efficiently and effectively as they can, you as a project manager have to go in, have honest conversations with character about where the weaknesses are, what needs to be done, and then you need to go in and work on those things from the inside of your team. And as they grow and as they become better individuals, that will spread out to all end results and products that you build. And you've got to start from that perspective. I mean, I in a couple of the other agencies where I've been the PMO, I've literally paid for training for people in other functional areas because I knew they needed it. Their functional manager didn't have the budget anymore. He was like, I barely make salary. I don't have training budget. And I'm like, okay, well, let me pay for them for that. Nice. That's going to help them and help their area, but I know I'm going to get that person on my teams in the future. I know it. So that's going to help them internally, and then it's going to help me get those projects done outward.
All right, very good. All right, the last one, and we'll close out this session. And it's something that I see John Maxwell actually put into practice, even in his conferences. It seems like everything this guy does, he makes sure to put other people first.
Yes.
So in a project manager role, what do you go through mentally, thought-wise, to make sure that you're putting other people and their needs before your own without killing yourself?
Yes.
Right? You don't want to kill yourself. But how do you put them first?
You learn about them. You learn about them completely, not just from a work perspective. You work from them. You learn about them as a person, and then you make sure that even their goals and their desires, you're helping them get to, and you're helping them try to make that way. Now you do, like you said, you have to be very careful, because if you try to help the world, it's going to just totally wear you down. So you have to do what you can at the level that you can, but yet at the same time, make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're giving time for you. Going back to the time box stuff, before I go to bed every night, after I get finished with tons of stuff all day long, I have a 20-minute time box where I turn everything off and sit and just meditate myself and take time for myself and relax and bring my blood pressure down, bring my thoughts down, try to bring my day to a close every single day, because if you go to bed with it, you're not going to sleep well. And if you don't sleep well, your next day is going to be bad.
So taking care of yourself
Yes.
enables you to put other people first.
You've got to, like I said, every night, 20 minutes at the end of my day.
Doesn't sound like much.
It
20
doesn't,
minutes.
it doesn't. And in the course of the day, it's not for what I do during the day, but it has such a huge ramification for me as a leader every day for my team.
All right, very good. Well, that's a good closing point right there. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this discussion on character building. So next session, we're gonna start focusing on change. So we did a lot on character the last couple sessions. What to avoid, what to do. So what to run away from and what to run towards. So hopefully y'all got something out of that. Please join us in the next session. We're gonna be talking about change itself. How to manage it, how to plan for it. It'll probably take up a couple sessions because we ramble on all the time. So. All right, well, thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.